Aloha kakahiaka. My name is Taisei Lee. I am your co-host of BrotherLee Time. In Hawaii, the story of leadership is often the story of people who have arrived here seeking opportunity and then found a deeper calling to serve the community around them. Our guest today represents that very journey. From arriving in Honolulu as a young immigrant to spending decades shaping the policies that guide our islands, Sylvia Luke has dedicated her career to public service. Her path has taken her from the halls of the Hawaii House of Representatives, where she helped guide the state's finances and priorities, to now serving the people of Hawaii as Lieutenant Governor. Today's conversation is not just about politics, but we will talk about politics as well, just a little bit. But more about perseverance, responsibility, and the character required to serve a place as special as our islands. Welcome, Lieutenant Governor Sylvia Luke.
Oh, thanks for having me. While you were reading that, I felt really
You felt good?
Yeah. Just kind of, I felt the love.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I was asking a question. What I can call you auntie?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Well, in local culture, it's a term of endearment, a term of respect, and for pretty much anybody that's older than you,
Yeah.
auntie,
In fact,
uncle.
my son. I hate to go into a different area, but my son went to school in Memphis, Tennessee, and so of all places, I thought, okay, why is he going to Memphis, Tennessee? But he loved it. But then when he went there, all his classmates' parents, he called them auntie and uncle.
Yeah.
And that was the first time, they've ever been called auntie and uncle. And he would be like, hey, auntie, hey, uncle. And they really, really liked it. And they took it in. And I think that's how Hawaii is. We share our culture, we share who we are, and then spread that to the world. And so, he had a different perspective coming back, but, he still keeps in touch with his classmates, and the parents loved the idea that they were being called auntie and uncle.
I think that also relates to a local gesture like the shaka. If somebody lets you in while you're driving on the freeway and then you throw out a shaka, if you're not from here, you might be like, oh, well, they're saying there's some form of thank you. That's what it appears to be. And then it gives you really a firsthand experience of aloha. Yeah. And if you do that in the mainland, people might be like, well, I think I've seen that before. What are they trying to communicate, right?
Are they trying to flick me off? Or what was that? What was that sign?
That's what you would expect in the mainland. Yeah. So, this is huge for us. We started this project off 2 years ago, focused on my passion for wine, explaining wine, the service of it and all that. And now today, 2 years later, we're sitting down with the Lieutenant Governor in our new studio.
This segment has been really growing and, growing in popularity. And people really like the podcast type of, kind of conversation, only because you get to dig deep and you get to dive in and ask the follow-up, and you get to really know not just the person that you're interviewing, but a portion of yourself as well as the interviewer. And, congratulations, 2 years in the making and more.
Thank you very much. I think, the space of podcasting, a lot of times people can trust that the intentions are based off of the interviewer or the project itself, and not a whole lot of outside interest, especially when you get to the bigger levels. I think that might change a little bit, but there's something organic about what's happening right now. So why did you agree to be on BrotherLee Time?
Josh, I got to know Josh, and he said, hey, you know what? You should talk to these guys. Taisei and Kenji have a really terrific story to tell, and it's not just about you going on their podcast, but they want to venture really into figuring out who they are as a person, as individuals, why they have decided to come here, invest their time here, and commit to here, and really sharing the aloha spirit and sharing who we are as people and who we are as a community. And so, I thought, hey, you know what terrific time to talk about love and compassion, especially not just here, but what's happening around the nation, what's happening around the world. I think people really underestimate the power of compassion and power of love and this positivity, and we need to keep talking about it, because people nowadays lose sight of the fact that, hey, they're just in the middle of all these negativity and they get caught up in it, with social media, with everything that's going on, and they just get down, and it's contagious. Negativity is contagious. So, any effort to spread positiveness, spread who we are as people, spread the aloha, I think it's a really terrific thing. And I thought, hey, you know what? This is a terrific opportunity. So thank you for letting me be on.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah. Kenji, she kind of reminded me of Mom.
You can call me Mom too.
Yeah, Mom.
Not just Auntie.
Well, just like you said about negativity being contagious, positivity is as well. And I think that's one of the flags that we wave here on the program, is that, we're positive people by nature, but we want to accentuate the positivity in everyone, right? So I understand that this is your first podcast. I guess I was going to say informal, but this is kind of formal, the way that we set things up. So last night before you went to sleep, what ran through your mind?
Last night before I went to sleep, I take the dogs out to walk. I have a French bulldog. He's half Frenchy, half Boston, and the smaller one is a Shih Tzu. So my husband and I walk them, and then, because it was all still rainy, and, a lot of times when it's rainy, they don't like to go shishi or poop as much. So I was thinking, okay, do I have to take them out in the middle of the night? Sometimes, all of a sudden the dogs jump off the bed and they're waiting by the door, and you're like, okay, what's going on? So, of all things, I was thinking about that last night.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of important, for people that have affection for animals. That says a lot about someone. Yeah. What do your dogs do for you after a hard day?
Hey, dogs don't judge. No matter who you are, and no matter what's going on, you have to care for them. You have to love them. And it doesn't matter if you're sick or you're tired or you're doing other stuff. They have to go out to shishi, and they have to go out to poop. Otherwise, can you imagine you not being able to shishi for 12 hours? And so we're very sympathetic, and we take them out like clockwork and make sure that they do their business outside the house. And so, it's like unconditional, it's unconditional, not just love from them, but it's unconditional responsibility to take care of them, because they cannot talk, right? You got to communicate in different ways, and you have to understand that you took on this responsibility, and, you got to take care of them.
Dogs are family members as well. So, Lieutenant Governor, I would like to start with your origins. Born in Seoul, Korea, and relocated to Hawaii at 9 years old. I want to talk about your transition to Hawaii's culture. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So when I was 9, my parents decided to move to Hawaii, and it's similar to many families here. They move because they want better opportunities for their kids, better opportunities for themselves. And we move. We didn't have any family here. And so I'm not sure why my dad decided to come here. Once he joked that he doesn't like the cold, so he thought, okay, Hawaii is perfect. And I don't know if that's the reason, or that's the reason that he thought a 9-year-old would understand, but he said, okay, that's why. And so we came here, no family, but we didn't understand a single word of English. And so it was in May of 1977. And in 1977, so Korea is not what it was. Korea was still a developing country, and it's not what you see now with K-pop, K-drama, all the innovation, all the development. It was a very, very different country. And so we come here, and it's summer of 1977. So school is about to end, so, no sense we get enrolled. So during the whole summer, and then they were working. So it was basically me. I was the oldest of 3 kids. So I was 9, my brother was 6, and my sister was, I think, like 4. So they were still babies, and we had to take care of ourselves. I had to be basically their caretaker while my parents went to work. But even that's not atypical, right, in Hawaii. I mean, your parents are working, your guardians are working, they're working sometimes 2 jobs, and the kids have to take care of themselves. They got to fend for themselves. And similar in your situations as well. You know, it's like not unusual for people in Hawaii. And so because my parents knew that, hey, you know, we didn't know a single word of English, what they did was they drew like an apple, and they put a letter A, and then they drew whatever the B was. I only remember A for apple, but they drew all these letters and corresponding pictures and pasted them all around the house. So you would go to the bathroom and you would see the C, or you would see an A. And then in addition to that, we watched a lot of Sesame Street. So, you know, it's kind of interesting because in Sesame Street, you're not only you know, talking in English, they introduced a lot of Spanish words. So for the longest time, I was like, oh, agua or mi casa, su casa. And I still remember those things from Sesame Street. And then summer rolls past and you go to school and you're still struggling with English because, I mean, it was just the 3 of us at home and with our parents. And you show up, and we went to Kaumanu Elementary School.
Okay.
And you show up and you don't understand anything people are saying. And I would be sitting in the class looking at that big clock, you know, in classroom, you got that big circle clock, right? Round clock in the front of the class. And I would just watch the hands tick. And I just would be sitting there watching and, you know, thinking, okay, when is my dad going to pick us up? And even to go to the bathroom, it's not like nowadays where you have a kind of a figure of a female for girls or a figure of a male for boys. You know, it was all spelled out because, you know, back then it wasn't as accessible. People weren't thinking about that kind of stuff. Just to go to the bathroom, I would have to follow a bunch of girls around, and it would be hit or miss. Sometimes I'm like, oh, okay, we went to another classroom, or okay, this is the bathroom. And I just remember, you know, the hardest part was trying to figure out where the bathroom was.
So you've definitely adjusted to our culture. But when it comes to Korean traditions and values, are there anything that still live with you to this day?
Well, no, absolutely. You know, the thing that we did every year, you know, in New Year's, you eat what's known as dakguk. So dakguk is mochi soup. So kind of similar to Japanese culture or Chinese culture. You know, you have something that you eat during New Year's, and we continue to do that. And before, my mom used to make kimchi, but that's really, really hard to do. So, you know, it's like,
I love kimchi soup, tofu, and a pork belly with
Where's
hot rice.
Where's your go-to?
I don't really have a go-to. There's a Korean spot in Waihewa. But I mean, honestly, I'm just a fan of it in general. Actually, since I work at Roy's, the chefs there tend to make multicultural foods all the time. So I'm lucky to have like Filipino food, Korean food, like it all. And that's one of the beautiful parts of Hawaii is the fact that this is a cultural mixing pot.
It is.
Melting pot.
It is. Yeah.
I did want to ask you, so in your adolescence, when you were going to school, are there, you know, the public school teachers of Hawaii, probably of the nation and the world, are like unsung heroes.
Yeah.
Is there any one teacher that stands out to you, and why?
Yeah, I wouldn't say one teacher. I mean, throughout my entire educational life, I mean, I can point to many teachers. And even at Kaumanu Elementary School, there was my homeroom teacher, and my homeroom teacher spent her own hours after school teaching me how to speak English. And she refused to send me to a ESL class, English as a second language class, and she just spent her own time just teaching me how to speak. And she would like mouth words to me, and she would just be talking to me, and she said, eventually I understood that she thought it would be more beneficial for her to spend her own personal time with me as opposed to sending me to a different class with English as second language kids. And that was, my first true experience of what this place was all about. What Hawaii means is people going out of their way to show compassion, show love, show the helping hand. And who does that? But people do that every day here. In the world, you think, okay, who would do that? And that happens every day here. And that's what's so amazing. And this teacher, without her, I still continue to think, that shaped who I am, and that shaped the things that I believe and what I want to do and how I want to repay, because it was a stranger just reaching out and helping me. I still continue to just be amazed at the compassion and the love of people.
Yeah, the reason why I said that you remind me of my mother is because she kind of talks with that same nurturing energy, an innate ability or desire to take care. And I'm sensing that from you. I was going to ask you, if aliens arrived here on Oahu today, and as the representative of our people, how would you explain who we are to them?
I would tell them, hey, first of all, I would be like, okay, you don't know our language. I know how you feel because I didn't know any English as well. So, we would be doing sign language or whatever. And, the thing that you should do is, whenever you see all these alien shows, they don't hug, right? But that's what we do. We just go and hug. And you might be dead, but that might be a very bad mistake. But you never see all these alien shows where the first thing you do is you go up to somebody and just give them a hug. And
do you think aliens exist?
I don't know. I'm very superstitious. So I do think there's a life form out there, because how can it not? You look in the stars and you look up and there's billions of stars. And how can we not think that there's something else out there? There must be. And, I think that's what's so, it's so like awesome to think that, hey, there's like things out there we can't explain. Even the things that happen to us, there's things that we can't explain. It just happens.
Lieutenant Governor, when a human passes away, what do you think happens to our spirit?
They go to heaven.
All of them?
I would hope so. I think they're some are with us. Because they have things that they have to take care of. But I think for the most part, spirits are at the end of life journey, they go to their maker. And
I think everyone's entitled to their own beliefs. And that's one of the awesome parts about being a human, is that you can choose what you feel. Do you feel like there is a place for religion in politics?
I think so. I think religion and politics are intertwined. And religion brings values, and religion brings perspective, and religion brings different type of beliefs. And even in politics, even in policy making, you have beliefs, you have values, you have ideals, and different ideas. Where the two conflict is where people try to instill their values on you. And you have to respect that each individuals come from different backgrounds and different values and different beliefs. And you have to be open-minded, and you have to put yourself in the shoes of the individual and be like, okay, why is this person thinking this way? Is there a common ground? And that's where sometimes I think politics and speaking of politics and religion fail, because we are not open to putting ourselves in the shoes of that individual and be empathetic and thinking about what challenges and what struggles has that person gone through to make them in this place that they try to push their values on you.
Yes, I agree. And I think that one thing that as human beings that we could practice more is to be respectful in disagreement.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, I have another subject. So Roy Yamaguchi, I do work for Chef Roy Yamaguchi. But recently he took the role as director of the Culinary Institute of the Pacific. Yeah. And the CIPs has a groundbreaking initiative to revamp the public school system's nutrition program. Yeah. So the food that we serve to the youth, to kind of be focused more on nutrition, sourced locally, right? And then also they want the food to taste good so that kids eat the food. This is one of the biggest wins for Hawaii in recent history. Why has it taken so long for us to get here?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. In fact, the sad reality is about 80 to 90% of everything that we consume, including food, we import. We ship them in, fly them in, bring it into the state. And when you think about what are available to eat, we have a lot of stuff. I mean, we have the largest ranch, contiguous ranch on the Big Island. So that is the largest ranch in the United States.
Was that Parker?
Yeah, Parker Ranch. So you think about that. That is amazing. And, we have tropical fruits, we have vegetables, we have poultry products, we have protein products. And why aren't we doing enough to feed our own people and our own kids in our school system the food that we grow, the food that we produce right here? And it will save a lot of money. And then not only that, it's helping our ranchers and it's helping our farmers, it's helping our ag industry. So you're integrating all that. So the things that Roy Yamaguchi, the things that, including like he's working closely with his wife and Donovan De La Cruz, it's pretty amazing stuff. And a lot of times I think in government, we are stuck in this status quo. And then it is like, this is it. We do it every year. And then we do it and we get stuck. So let me kind of give you an example. Yeah. So one of the things as lieutenant governor, the law said one of our duties is what's known as an apostille. And we even thought, okay, what is this apostille? We knew we had to do name changes. So if you wanted to change your name from Taisei to something else, you got to come to our office and we can change your name. Okay. The other thing that we do is this apostille. So apostille is a certification according to the United Nations agreement where we are the only office in the state of Hawaii that can certify a document that it's from the state of Hawaii. So, for instance, if you have a birth certificate and you want to take that birth certificate back to Japan or back to Singapore and say, this is who I am, you need a certification from our office saying that, oh yeah, that birth certificate is legit. So that apostille system has never been changed. And it has never been changed to the fact that, okay, to get this certificate, I'm going to ask you a question. How much you think it's going to cost to get this certificate?
$50?
No. Okay, so the trick is it has never been changed since its creation back in, I think, like the 60s. Never been changed.
Oh, so like 60 cents.
Yeah, $1.
Okay.
$1. Okay, so it has never been changed. So second question, how do you think you pay for the dollar? Never been changed.
$1. With coins?
Yeah, cash.
Oh, cash.
You bring cash to my office.
Okay.
And then the second, there's only 2 options. So number 1 is cash. Number 2 is, what do you think the second option is?
Definitely not Venmo.
Yeah, definitely not Venmo.
Check.
Not even check.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know, Kenji, you want to help me with this one?
Cashier's check.
Cashier's
And
check. I don't even know what that is.
I know. Nobody born in even the 1990s on, they have never heard what a cashier's check is. But if you go to the bank and say, hey, I want a money order or cashier's check, then they'll give it to you. But guess what? It costs sometimes $35 to get a cashier's check. So does it make sense?
Payment.
Yeah, for $1 payment. It has never been changed. And everybody just went along because this is a law, never been changed. So when I got in, I was like, this is ridiculous because, people are coming and mailing me dollar bills in the mail. And sometimes you open the mail and my staff opens the mail, and guess what happens? The dollar is cut in half because we're like opening, and then the dollar was too close to the top. And then so we end up with all these stacks of dollar bills. And so my staff goes to the bank every so often with like bunch of dollar bills, which looks a little bit like kind of sketch. But so dollar bills, money orders. So I told them, just because it's been done the same way, we should not take it as we shouldn't continue it just because it's being done the same way. We have to change with the times, and we have to think about what our residents want and how do you make it efficient for them, not efficient for government, efficient for them. So for the first time since its creation, we are allowing debit cards, we're allowing credit cards, and we'll eat the fees. Because, what is the point of charging you 30 cents for $1 or whatever it is? We'll eat the fees, and then you can charge it, and then you can even do it online. Before, we used to have streams of people coming in, filling in paperwork. And so that's kind of I went on a tangent, but coming back to our food system, just because it's been done like this, we shouldn't accept it. And what the Roy Yamaguchi and the Culinary Institute is trying to do is trying to change people's mindset, trying to change how Department of Education order food, how do they procure food, how do they get kids to eat what they want, how do you support our ag industry, and how do you support our ranchers so that more of the food that we grow and we produce can be used to feed our own people. I think that's really, really exciting.
Yeah, and really focusing on the nutrition of our keiki is also focusing on the future of Hawaii in general. I want to ask you, how do you feel like the rail's going?
Oh, you know what? I am very mixed about rail because, every time I see the rail go back and forth, and then it drives me bonkers that I'm like, okay, it's empty. And, rail, I would want it to succeed because, I think we do need different transportation, alternative transportation. But, when I was in the legislature, certain groups wanted a permanent tax to support rail. And I oppose that because I don't think we should tax our people forever to support the rail project. And I got some flack for that, but I think there has to be accountability and there has to be transparency on how the rail works. When you look at a really successful rail system, it's integrated with the bus system, it's integrated with different parks and ride. And I think we still have a long way to go.
Yeah. I mean, end of the day, I don't really know a whole lot about it. We see headlines in the news and whatnot. I never really did a whole lot of research. I know it seemed to have been an endless money pit, and the taxpayers are funding this thing. And It's been going on for so long,
Yeah.
but my brother and I actually recently wrote it, and it was kind of convenient for us. We were going to the airport, and we got dropped off in Eva or at Kapolei, and we wrote it 20 minutes to the airport, dropped us right off at Hawaiian, and it was a decent experience. And there's some people on there as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think there is a space. There has to be a space because the infrastructure is already there. So
Yeah.
I mean, I really hope that this thing is successful and useful to the community moving forward.
We're two brothers from Hawaii, and this channel is our opportunity to tell stories around the world. If you have a place, a city, an event, or a story that you think we should experience and you can help make the travel possible, there's a connect form in our site linked below. And if it makes sense, we'll reach out. Thanks for watching. Back to the episode.
I want to ask you, what is the most fulfilling part about representing the people of Hawaii to the rest of the world?
The most fulfilling part about representing Hawaii to the rest of the world, wow, that's a pretty deep question. The most fulfilling part is really about, the challenges that we have here. In order to solve them, these are complex questions and these are complex problems. So if you can try to have an example of what you're going to try to fix here, you can try to share with the rest of the world. So for instance, one of the things that I'm doing is it's known as a Ready Keiki initiative. When I took on the role of Lieutenant Governor, I made a commitment to ensure that all 3 and 4-year-olds have access to preschool. Our residents are spending basically like equivalent to rent to send their kids to childcare and send their kids to preschool because there are not that many options or opportunities. And so if you think about that, if you have more than one child, you could spend as much as $3,000 a month. And who has extra $3,000 a month if you're young working family and you're starting out and you're trying to do something? So we push to ensure that 3 and 4-year-olds have access to preschool by opening a lot of preschool classrooms throughout the state. And in fact, this past year we celebrated opening the 100 preschool around the state.
Wow.
And so the part of that is 4 out of the 100 preschool is Hawaiian immersion. And so these are 3 and 4-year-olds who go to school. In addition to speaking English at home, they come to school with the mindset that they are going to speak Olelo Hawaii in the classroom. And so you share that experience and how much we accomplish in the Ready Keiki initiative to other states, and they take notice and they go, okay, how do you emulate that? How do you integrate different kind of immersion programs? How do you integrate culture and heritage into your school system as early as 3 and 4? I think that's something that we want to strive to do, be an example to the rest of the world.
I agree, and that's where we are. We're in Hawaii, and the native host culture is extremely important, and we need to respect that. So with that said, I want you to address the indigenous people of Hawaii. We are 6 to 7 generations beyond the overthrow of the Hawaiian Kingdom, also stated in the apology resolution issued by the U.S. Congress in 1993. As the current lieutenant governor of our state, on your list of priorities, where does supporting the empowerment and success of Native Hawaiians lie?
It's very important. And in fact, it should be top of mind in every law that we pass, every legislation, every policy. Because if you think about it, it was an illegal overthrow. The United States had a treaty with the Kingdom of Hawaii, and that was breached. And the state of Hawaii, we, as part of being part of the Admissions Act and being part of the state, we have an obligation as a state to honor our host culture, honor our people, and honor our first people right here in the state of Hawaii. And everything that we do, we have to keep that as a top of mind as opposed to something we thought of in the back end. So even our Ready Keiki initiative, we wanted to make sure that Hawaiian immersion is not an afterthought, but it's something that we're thinking of at the same time as we're building out the preschool, because we don't want it to be where, afterthought and we go, okay, how about Hawaiian immersion? It has to be integrated in every single thing that we do. In fact, currently we're working with the University of Hawaii at Hilo to build out a teaching pathway for Hawaiian immersion teachers. And they are going to have not just preschool on their campus, but it's going to be a learning teaching pathway. But I wanted to address something kind of similar to that.
Yes.
Before I left the legislature, because of that very issue, the thing that, when people ask me what keeps you up at night or what do you constantly think about, it is the people on the wait list.
Yeah.
It is 27,000 people who continue to be on the wait list, who are waiting for lots, who are waiting for ag lots or family homes. And we are talking about the Department of Hawaiian Homeland's wait list. And these are individuals who continue to wait, and there are people who died on the wait list.
Yeah, I do hear a lot about that. And then who inherits their position on that list? Is their family members, their kids?
Yeah. So there is a blood quantum requirement.
Yes.
So in order for you to be on the list, it has to be 50%. If you get a lease from the Department of Hawaiian Homelands, if your child or somebody that you're leaving the property to has 25%, then you can have the property be transferred to that individual. But because of this 50% blood quantum, it is restrictive.
Man, blood quantum is such a Western thing.
It is, and I think that's the creation of the federal government.
Yeah.
Right. This was something that was enacted by the federal government.
Seems like some disconnect there. If you're Hawaiian, you're Hawaiian.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, how much power or influence do you have in that initiative?
So setting the blood quantum is something that the federal government has to address. Who knows in this climate if it's ever going to be challenged or if they're ever going to take a look at it. But, for the state of Hawaii, I think we continue to have that obligation to take care of individuals on the wait list. And, before I left the legislature, I made sure that I work with, people in the legislature to set aside the single largest amount that was given to DHHL, and that was $600 million. And from that $600 million, now the department is quickly trying to get a lot of lots out, getting a lot of homes built. In fact, the first lots that were built out of the $600 million was in Maui. So I attended the groundbreaking because it was significant. It was after the wildfires, and it was even more significant. So I attended the groundbreaking. I even attended the lot selection. If you have ever heard about the lot selection, if you ever went to a lot selection, it's very emotional because people are there and your name is being called and they might go, okay, number 25, Taisei Lee. And then, the whole family is celebrating. And this is that moment where you get to have possession of this property. And you've been waiting sometimes for 30 years and your name is called and you get to have it. And I went to the lot selection in Maui, and I got to meet this auntie and her family, and she was elderly. I think she was in her 80s. And so I to spend some time with her. And I asked her, hey, how long have you been on the list? I think she said about 30 years. And the family shared that they just lost their property from the fires. And so this was really like godsend and timely that they applied and their name was selected. So I celebrated with them because I thought, wow, they lost their home from the fires, and now they're being given this opportunity to live in Wailuku in this new home. And then, so that was groundbreaking, lot selection. The last part was when they give the keys over. And that is also an emotional experience. Can you imagine your house is built, you're ready to move into your new home, and then we're going to give the keys over to you. So I was looking for that family because I thought, wow, what a journey, And they weren't there. And so I was wondering, hey, how come they weren't there? A few months later, I saw the daughter and the daughter and the husband at an event, and I said, "Hey, I was looking for you at the key distribution and the time where they were passing out the key." And I said, "Hey, I was looking for you guys. How's Auntie?" And then they go, "Oh, she passed away," and that kind of broke my heart.
Yeah. Imagine a society where everyone has a safe place to live.
Yeah.
I hope that we get there someday. I got a couple more questions, just 2 more questions, and I want to pass the microphone to my brother because he has some amazing things to ask you as well. Do you feel like the public demands too much integrity and transparency from politicians or not enough?
This is what we signed up for. And we are put to a higher standard, and we should be put to a higher standard, and we should be held to having accountability, integrity, and transparency. And with all the different criticism leads to us looking and evaluating what is being criticized and think about, okay, how do we do better job, and how do we serve the public better? Because no matter what the negatives are, they are trying to send you a message, and you have to take that in a way where you have to step back and go, okay, what is the issue here, and how do you try to be better, and how do you try to address some of the negatives and address the issue. And it's an opportunity for you to become better public servant.
Well, I just want to be honest. I'm gonna wrap up my segment, but in hindsight of our conversation, I lost hope at one point in politics, and I removed myself from all interest involving politics. It was with this statement: I did not have sexual relations with that woman. And ever since that point, I was like, wow, in the highest position of power, they can flat out lie to us. And then I thought, man, now I started watching everything a little closer and really watching everything with an open eye, because you don't really know what to believe. But I feel in my heart and in my na'au that there is hope with people like you in office, people that give, that embody love and compassion, similar to my mother. You're like a dolphin swimming with a bunch of sharks. And you know what dolphins can do to sharks. I want to give you one last thing. My mom had an experience with you. So like in the lead up to this interview, I called a bunch of influential people that I know, right? And I was, hey, what do you think about this Miss Sylvia Luke, And I was waiting for something negative, just because I wanted an even, feel for who you are. And every single one of them, I called 4 people, right? And they all said something good. Oh, I know her personally. Oh, she did this. I had this experience with her. But the most important one to me was my mother. My mother is also a public servant. She's a person of the community. She does things selflessly. Yeah. I think integrity and character is what happens when no one's looking. And there wasn't a situation that I just want to tell you about. You might remember, but it involves you and it shows your character. So my mother was at a festival and she was working it. She was working in an area where there were a lot of people that hold high positions of power. You were one of them. And I think there was some kind of notice where they let everyone know, hey, sorry, but you actually have to sign something. I'm just some kind of document, maybe a release or something. What my mother remembers is that you were the only one that came up on your own accord and didn't expect that document to come to you. You went up and you sought the document and said, hey, I just want to do things the right way. I heard that you. So what my mother got was that you have this humility, this selflessness, not because like, it's not this energy of, well, if you want me to do something last minute, then bring it to me. So I think that that is a testament to who you are at the core. And I just wanted to share that with you and
that's so nice.
And our community.
No, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That means a lot.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here. This was awesome for us.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mahalo, Auntie, for being on with BrotherLee Time. When you walked in, you were like, who's the older one? What did you think? What's the read?
No, you know what? You guys look so close in age that I wasn't surprised that you guys are about a year and a half.
Year and a half difference, but 1 grade.
Yeah.
So we was always close. I was always in the wake of my brother's influence. Let's just put it that way. All our teachers know. I come in, oh, you're Taisei's younger brother.
Oh, sometimes does that make you like irritated?
You know what? To be honest, I mean, you got to ask my teachers, right?
Yeah.
But they still remember us to this day.
Yeah.
My mom still runs into a few of them every now and then. And we proud.
Yeah.
Taisei and I are proud results of the public education system in Hawaii, specifically West Oahu. But, we wear that on our sleeve in a certain way. Yeah. And being you're older, right?
I am. How old am I? I'm 58. So I could be your mom.
Well, the vibes is there.
Yeah.
But how was it being an older sibling?
I was 3 years. I'm 3 years older than my brother, 5 years older than my sister. So I've never been in the same school because we're 3 years apart. When I was in middle school, they would be in elementary school. When I was in high school, at that point in time, high school was only 3 years, so they were in middle school. So it was. We never were in schools together, and I think that kind of makes a difference because you being in the same school and very close to your brother, we're still close. It's just we never had that being in the same
Ka'ahumanu school.
Yeah, same school, Roosevelt. Konanakoa.
I was wondering. So I always ask siblings this, and we named our podcast BrotherLee Time. Because I think there's a strong part of identity that comes when you're a sibling. And same thing for single children. I mean, being a sibling or lack thereof, it has an influence on your own identity and character. Kind of jokingly, I said, like, I was in the wake of my brother's, identity. But is there any, it sounds like you're setting the wake, though, as an older sister, especially as an immigrant family. So how did that sort of shape who we see here sitting in our studio today?
The relationship I had with my brother and sister was a little bit different because my parents were working all the time and we basically had to fend for ourselves. I was the surrogate parent. So I don't think growing up they really looked at me as a sibling. They looked at me as another parent because I had to be the one to make sure that they did their homework. In fact, when for a short time we lived in Paoa Valley, and I was going to Konanako Middle School. My younger brother and sister were going to Paoa Elementary School. We live close to Booth Park, and so in the morning I would make sure that they got their things ready. I walked them to school, dropped them off at Paoa Elementary, then walk, another, like 10, 15 minutes to Konanakoa. So that was daily. And so because of that, growing up, as the older child, you have to take on those responsibility. And I think that's similar to many of situations where the parents are working really hard here, and then the older child has to fill that role of a parent.
The only reason I brought that up is because for me in my prep, I was thinking like, okay, what do I want to ask, right? Yeah. Obviously. And there's a lot of people who probably think, you should ask this, you should ask that. I get it. Mm-hmm. But for me personally, it was, first of all, let me just state my bias. Like, my brother and I were raised by a single parent, Asian American family. Like my brother said the first thing, right? Like, you remind us of our mom. So like, yeah, I'm biased to women leaders. Mm-hmm. And so obviously you're a woman in a position of leadership. And so I was wondering, did it come from being the big sister / mom / dad maybe? Was your dad there? Yeah. Like, how did you forge this leadership?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in fact, as I told Ty, we immigrated in 1977 when I was just 9 years old. The unfortunate thing was, I don't know if it was the stressors of life or my dad was, because he was a heavy smoker, he had significant health problems. And, maybe it was the stress of moving to a different country, the pressure of trying to fulfill the promise of giving us a good opportunity and way of life. And I don't know if he just did not feel like it was working out, but he had high blood pressure. He was taking a lot of medication. And when I started high school, he had a major stroke. And it debilitated him to a point where, like he was paralyzed on one side. So he was using a cane and he lost his speech, he lost motor skills. So basically from when I was in sophomore in high school, my mom became the sole breadwinner of the house. And that put a lot more responsibility on the kids because we knew that we couldn't depend on them to take care of us. We had to take care of ourselves, take care of each other. That made us closer. That made us depend on each other. And we, when we came home from school, my father was either, at physical therapy or he was at home. We had to help him. And my mom, in addition to working, she came home, took care of him. So it was hard. I'm not gonna lie and underplay it, but it was hard. It was hard to see my mom in that position. It was hard to see us trying to work through that. And about a year and a half later, he had 2 additional strokes. And then that's what led to his death. And he was only 48 years old. And you imagine, when I became 48, I'm 58 now. When I became 48, I thought, wow, it's crazy that you would leave this life at that age. And it was, looking back, even your mom, right? You're looking back, you sometimes wonder, how did she do it? How did she do it? How did she raise both you and Ty? How did she go through life? How did she manage all that? And I think the same way about my mom. How did she deal with her husband being paralyzed, having to go through all this treatment? How did she take on the responsibility of taking care of young kids at the same time taking care of, everything else? So people are resilient, and I look to things like that as inspiration. If she can survive that, then all the different struggles we have, we can survive it too, because that must have been super hard.
So how would you describe your relationship with your mother? She is
a vibrant and thriving 85-year-old woman. And she, sometimes she cannot hear too well, but I don't know if that's on purpose. And she doesn't want to...
Selective hearing.
Yeah, she goes, I cannot hear, but I don't know, sometimes she can hear. So it's like But she is strong, and I think she's gonna live a long life. But after all her struggle, she got remarried, and she lived in Georgia for a long, long time, like for 20 years. And after her second husband passed away, we brought her home. I'm glad that she had kind of a second opportunity to live her life, and I see her thriving, and she has friends. She really enjoys.
I gotta ask though, when you talk to her on the phone, when she's in her active hearing mode, do you say I love you?
Growing up, Asian family, we don't say I love you.
That's
right. Because
especially immigrant Asian family.
Yeah, it's like I love you. It's like, oh my gosh, are you dying? Why are you saying I love you, kind of thing. Now she does, and I do too. And
she started.
Yeah. In fact, my brother, who growing up, he was in the army. He was career army man, and he would never show that kind of emotion. He was very hard and tough, and I think part of it was because of how he grew up too. Without a dad, have to fend for yourself. Being a boy is hard, without a father figure. And even him, he tells my mom, I love you, and she say, in a group text, and she say, I love you back. And I'm going, what's going on? We never showed this kind of affection growing up, and what happened? But I think that's really nice.
Wow. Do you tell your siblings I love you?
No.
Oh, straight up no. They don't. Why? They never earn it, or how come?
No. Because we show love in different ways. We just through criticism and harassing each other.
Harassing. Yeah. Let me correct this thing that you got wrong.
Yeah. But I love them.
I love you, Kenji.
Thank you. I love you, Tai. Yeah. No, we talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
Love is a common thing. Death, Taisei talked about that earlier. But now we see a lot more guys who are not blood related saying I love you to each other, group text or one-on-one in person. Yeah. So I was wondering how you show your love. How about as a parent, how do you show your love?
Oh, I tell my son I love you all the time, and then he tells me he loves me. So which is nice because that's so different from when we were growing up.
And he's like an adult, right?
He is 23.
Okay. 23, law school, was it?
He's in law school.
He's still saying, I love you too, mom.
Yeah.
Hey, shout out to you. Hey, tell your mom I love you guys.
No, it makes a big difference.
It does, right?
Yeah.
And your siblings, if you feel like it.
Okay, I'll try to say I love you to my sister and my brother. That would be my new mission.
The hardest campaign.
Yeah. That will be.
Well, we talk about love, and I wonder if from Korea to Japan, Korea to Hawaii, we're Japanese Americans ourselves. And so we see it in our mom's generation of her siblings. She's one of 4. Her grandma was one of 9.
Wow.
She was 9 of 12 or 13.
Wow, 9 of 12.
So the farther back you go, the more siblings, right? Nobody's saying I love you. Nobody's showing out that. But I think that's something that came with the immigrants who came to specifically Hawaii and just had to hit the ground running, struggling with language, adapting to culture and all of that. And so I wonder how much being here in Hawaii changed us immigrants, first generation, second generation. And as we progress in time, we more open to say I love you and show that affection. So it's good to hear that's happening with your mom.
Nice. Yeah, I think it's really nice.
One thing I did want to address too is that since we have you on, the sitting current lieutenant governor, there's some topics we cannot avoid and we have to address. So I kind of feel bad because I got to be that guy.
Yeah.
But these are things that we think of as born and raised. My history is a little different. I spent almost half my life off island before coming back. So I kind of had a fresh look at things. And the first one, cost of living.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to come back, buy a house and be good.
Yeah.
Nope. Yeah. That took at least 5-6 years longer than I thought it would take. Happy to say we reached that, but a lot of people my age, class of 2003, Campbell High School, shout out, A lot of people my age don't experience this. So on the topic of cost of living and what locals can do, like what's your sort of broad stance on the cost of living? How do you see it moving and changing in Hawaii?
Yeah, cost of living is the number one struggle for the people of Hawaii. And it's not, the main thing is home prices. Home prices are crazy. I mean, how do you afford to buy something that is million plus? And the things that are being built, when you go to Kaka'ako, we continue to build these luxury condos, and we're building things that people cannot afford. We have to commit to doing something and constantly thinking about doing something about housing. Living in Hawaii is hard, but we chose to be here and we commit to being here, and you want to be here. I want to be here. I want our kids to be here. And that cannot just be words. We have to figure out, okay, how do we address the housing issue? How do we address rising costs of everything, rising costs of food, rising costs of childcare, rising costs of even healthcare, everything, gas prices, everything keeps going up. And we have to figure out how do we help our local families to thrive so we don't have more people living outside of the state of Hawaii than here. You know, a lot of Native Hawaiians, there are more Native Hawaiians living in the continent than in the state of Hawaii. And
We just went to Vegas.
Yeah.
90,000, I think, was the number someone gave us of people who moved from Hawaii to Vegas.
Yeah. And when you talk to local people, they don't choose to go there. They choose because it's so expensive, and you got priced out of paradise, basically. And we as government, we as policymakers, in addition to community groups, businesses, we all have to figure out, okay, what is it going to take for us to decrease cost of living? And I'm tackling just one of the parts, which is the preschool part, which is the childcare part, because that is cost of living
Huge.
too. And so for young families, that is a big cost driver. And when we launched the Ready Keiki initiative, it wasn't just about getting kids a leg up. It was really about cost of living, because when we took a look at the report from AUW about what are some of the challenges of struggling families, childcare was one of the ones that rose to the top. And so everything that we do, we have to think about how does this relate back to cost of living.
This channel exists because we protect creative freedom. That also means we grow slower on purpose. If you're someone who thinks long-term and wants to help fuel what we're building without hijacking it, fill out the connect form on our website listed below. We check every submission, and if it makes sense, we'll reach out. Thanks for watching. Back to the episode. So what I'm hearing is the way you tackle this big thing that is cost of living is by reducing the childcare cost, right? Ready Keiki is one way. But I think we got to back up a step too and just acknowledge what the lieutenant governor position is and what can you do and what can't you do?
So we have statutory functions. So, we have statutory functions like name change, and we have statutory functions like doing certification, apostilles. In addition to that, there are agreed upon initiatives that I'm taking on, including the Ready Keiki initiatives. And these are agreed upon with the governor. So I asked the governor, hey, these are some important issues that I want to tackle, including the preschool childcare initiative. In addition to that, I want to tackle broadband. And broadband, even now, what we're doing here, it cannot happen without broadband. And broadband coming out of COVID was so important. It opened people's eyes that we were so dependent on broadband. And that also is related to cost of living. If you live on Molokai, you live on Lanai, or even certain parts of the Big Island, you can't get to a doctor quick enough. You live out in Ka'u and you're about to give birth, or you need an emergency medical service. Sometimes the only option is telehealth. And telehealth, instead of, flying to a neighbor island, making a doctor's appointment, waiting forever for a doctor. You can do that through telehealth. You can do it through different options, even online learning, online schooling. You can now do it through online services. So there's so many opportunities that we can give to our people and our residents with reliable internet service and reliable broadband service. And we're trying to have every community have connectivity so that they can get the services they want.
I have a question about connectivity, but before that, I feel like the reason I ask, like, what can a lieutenant governor do and can't do is because myself too, like a lot of people, not just Hawaii, but we can think that one problem can be solved by any politician. We don't know like what office does what. So problem, blame you, right? Politicians get their fingers pointed at for something that maybe is out of their reach, out of their capabilities. So that's kind of why I was like, what is it? Yeah. What can't you do? What's something that you can't do that people often say, oh, how come you don't do this?
Yeah, because our roles and initiatives are things that we have to agree with the or agreed upon with the governor. It's not as if I can just go, okay, I'm going to work on this. Because, if, for instance, the way that we're taking the initiative is different from where the governor is taking it, then there would be a clash. So it has to be something that we both agree. And, something that he go, okay, you know what, you're passionate about this. Yeah, go ahead and do this. You're passionate about this broadband issue. Go ahead and do this. But we all got to work as a team. We don't work in a vacuum or a silo. Cost of living is a big problem, and it takes all of us. It takes the governor, lieutenant governor, community members, the legislature, business sectors, industry leaders to tackle this. Yeah, the private sector to tackle this issue together.
Because one thing on the cost of living topic as well is, first of all, how would you describe the difference between the terms homeless and houseless? What's the nuance in between that?
I think the nuance is if you are homeless, if you're houseless, that's a more kind of a compassionate way of saying it. Homeless comes with a different kind of stigma, and the individuals are houseless. And they may not have a home, they may not have a place that they can call home, but essentially they are without a house, right?
Hawaii is their home, a lot of people would say. And so with that, like, we've addressed sort of the cost of living and the efforts you're making to reduce, let's say, growing families' cost. I just feel like the effort that one has to make today, let's say a 40-year-old, the effort a 40-year-old has to make in 2026 versus, let's say, the effort a 40-year-old had to make in
20 years ago.
Or 1970, let's say our mom's-ish area. How does that change? What was the change, and what do you think is going to be in the next few years?
Yeah. We have a lot more people, clearly, right? And then we have to take care of a lot more issues and the population that we have compared to even basically like 40 years ago or 50 years ago. But we have different opportunities, and we have opportunities to try to build this place into something that somewhere that people want to live, people want to raise their kids, and we always have to think outside the box, and we have to think about, hey, have we tried different things? Even compared to even 20 years ago, there are so many more initiatives and pathways for home ownership that I have never seen even 20 years ago. Even like the home ownership group or Jeff Galbraith's group, where it's they're working with financial institutions to do a rent-to-own approach, because one of the big impediments for home ownership is the down payment.
Yeah.
Because you don't have that kind of down payment. So if we can figure out a way where it is basically rent to own approach, and you work with different banks or credit unions, and then the state comes in to provide either security or provide that that kind of a guarantee, then we can try to work on something. And that was what, Hula May program was. That was what different programs were. But I think there are different initiatives where you put in either sweat equity as a way for home ownership, or you work with different type of contractor or the rent to own approach. I think we're challenging people to think of different ways so that people can own a home and people can try to get to that place. So I think that is kind of a good step forward.
On that note of ownership, right? There is sort of an internal battle amongst many local real estate agents that I know, as I am part of that community, where they feel like they're part of the system that is so villain, that's bringing Hawaii down. The price out of paradise thing, right? So many of our friends are leaving, and we are sort of participating in that world. So my take is that it's a difference of ownership and stewardship. That's at the core, because ownership wasn't a part of this land before we were all here. It was more stewardship. But now this introduction of Western commerce, economics, and ideas of ownership, right? The great Mahele, we could go deep. But I think with that, it's like for local real estate agents who struggle with this duality of ownership and stewardship, like, what do you say to them?
Yeah. So the other thing that we've been battling around is something similar to the Department of Hawaiian Homelands model. The Department of Hawaiian Homelands, the land is not owned by the beneficiary. There are long-term leases. For the state of Hawaii, I think one of the things that, because we're part of the international global market, people can come here and then just buy properties, and it becomes investment property. It turns into short-term rentals, and that some have said, okay, that leads to rising housing costs, that leads to less inventory, and we have to figure out, okay, what to do in that space. So one of the things that we continue to talk about is, do we have like a leasehold option? If we have a long-term leasehold option where people can buy just the house as opposed to the fee, then we can restrict it becoming an investment property, and it becomes less attractive for investors. And can we bring down the cost? Some people may not want a leasehold because you're not able to build equity, and you're not able to. There might be disincentive in making improvements because if you're at the end of the lease cycle, then it's not a good investment for you. But for certain family members, that might be an option. That might be an option for individuals who want to just have a place that they call a home. And if they know that they don't have kids, and they don't have somebody to leave it to, you may want to get into a lease situation. So I think those are different options that we continue to take a look at.
Do you feel like it's getting too crazy though?
I have hope, only because we're seeing tremendous amount of the different type of development. Whether it's in Evasai, Kapolei, we are building more homes than we have in past several decades, and you're running into individuals who, for the first time, they're buying or thinking of buying something in the next few years because there are different housing
Options.
projects and housing options coming up. Out in Kapolei, I think it's really exciting. We went to go visit a project that is coming up, or they're thinking about it. And I think, even developers are taking a look at, hey, they have to build for their workforce too. They have to build for the next generation of people. So I think there are opportunities that are coming up.
So we're filming this on March 16th, on the tail end of one of the biggest storms we've ever experienced in a long time. Not just Oahu, but
Yeah, throughout.
You see that house in Maui that just went in the river?
There's a huge sinkhole by the Capitol.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
A sinkhole.
Yeah, there's something collapsed on the side.
I thought you were talking about the potholes. Because there's a lot of that. But
Yeah, there's a lot of potholes too. Yeah.
I mean, it was a huge rain, choke floods, it was crazy. So that made me think about, how do you think right now, how well prepared are we for disasters?
We every disaster is a learning experience for the next one, and we are either in a hurricane season. Now we are wildfire state. We have flooding, rain. Sometimes we have drought. The amazing thing is, when you work with the Hawaii Emergency Management Group and you work with all the different counties and their mayors and their group, you appreciate all the behind the scenes work that goes on, and how they are not just trying to prepare for the next disaster, but even the response. Department of Transportation, we got a huge list of all the things that they are doing to do cleanup, assessment, the things that we take for granted. We're driving on the roads, we're driving on the streets, and then even the drainage have to be unplugged, and they're working constant. They're working 24/7 to clear a lot of the debris, clear a lot of the issues. So it's a lot of things that are going on.
What would you think is the one part of, let's say, an average local person, right? What are they not ready for?
What are they?
Disaster wise, what did the average person is not ready for or not considering?
Yeah, the things that is always dangerous is you have a back-to-back disaster. And so when you have a disaster, right now we're in a cleanup mode. We are assessing the damage. We are doing a lot of surveying and figuring out, okay, what do we need to do? If we were to have a storm again, then that exponentially adds to all the other problems before we do cleanup. Because when you drive around, there's leaves and down trees, and there's even for folks, there's been power outages, and if you have power outage for 2 days, all the things in your refrigerator, sometimes you got to throw it out and you got to go to the store and buy all that again. So the things that we always worry about is one of these
back-to-backs. Well, because after was it Friday, I think, was the craziest day, or I don't know how many inches of rainfall, but a lot. Yeah. I was personally scared for that dam in Wailu, or the Dole Dam. And I thought what would be more crazy is if everyone is like, oh, we're good. Yeah. And then something happened. Yeah. So it's kind of
it is back to back.
You feel like, oh, we missed it, and then something happens. So beyond having a go bag and all that stuff, it's more just be ready. Yeah. Is that
exactly? And people, I think we take it lightly. When we tell people, hey, have your medicine supply, have things for your pets, have your go-to bag, and because so far, there's been disaster, and for some of us, we didn't have to do evacuation. But even on Maui, there's still shelters open, and they still had evacuation, and you just got to be ready, whatever that is.
Can we just take a quick break from the politicking? getting a little politic exhaust over here. Because, I mean, I really wanted to get to know you a little bit more, too. So can I just give you the opportunity to ask either myself or Taisei a question? Something that maybe you're like, what? Who are these guys? What are they up to? Like, let's switch gears a little bit.
Yeah.
Anything you wanted?
No, definitely. I really want to know, okay, your kind of an origin story where what you were raised by your single mom, and did you guys always live here? What made you come back here?
Ty's been here. But luckily our mom worked for United Airlines. So we got to fly that non-rev life for our whole childhood. I mean, standby, which oftentimes was first class for us. So you imagine us two boys and my mom like flying first class all over the place. That was a very fortunate event or situation and circumstance for us. So even though we're like born and raised in Honolulu, we did get to see a lot of the, continental United States. And then I went to Oregon for school, then lived in Japan for 8 years as an assistant language teacher. So your ESL part, like that hits home for me too, because I was on the other side of the ESL equation. And then came home to raise our families. So we both have 2 girls. So raised by a single mom and 2, Taisei, nearly 3 girls. And so that's kind of a general background of us, who we are.
And what makes you commit to here? Because there's a lot of people, I mean, you think about folks in their 30s and they go, okay, it's too hard, I'm going to move away. So what made you commit to here?
Well, for me personally, I thought I could live in Portland, Oregon when I was there. It's very, very different. And now I've been back, it's not the same. I changed my mind. But that was one place at the time I thought I could live here. And then in Japan, same thing. I was like, I could live here. Healthcare, safety, like food, quality of food, how close you are to the source of your food. Kind of like what Ty was talking about with what Roy Yamaguchi is doing. It's just baked in. And transportation is, you don't need a car. Like I like that life. I could still live there now if you ask me. But the main reason was raising our kids. So for me, I had my own Keiki initiative, right? And it was to raise them here. Something about these islands and the culture, the people that I wanted for our children. I just felt like it was the most nourishing pot to plant these seeds in and bring them up. And then once they get their roots, like, okay, you guys spread your wings and go wherever. But just something about Hawaii that I felt I did not want to deprive my seeds from.
You can't explain it, but there is something about Hawaii. There is something very special, and you feel that your kids are best suited to be here with just kind of the multiculturalness, and because we have so many different races and we honor all the different ethnicities. Just because I'm Korean doesn't mean I'm not, I don't go to other ethnic events. I love bong dances. You know what I mean? It's like I wait until when it starts and I try to go a lot and I jump in and dance. I don't know if you dance.
Yeah, you follow the person in front of you. Easy.
Yeah. It's like Japanese lion dance.
It is a lion dance.
Yeah.
Oh, you get down at the bone dance. Okay. No, that's
Can we
a
see
good
an
one.
example?
I know. Something like that.
Yeah. Something like
Well, when did you feel local then?
I always felt local.
Even when you're 9, you couldn't read the bathroom
Even
thing.
when I couldn't read anything, because of the way that people just embraced me, either my teacher, and in fact, there was a girl, her name was Judy, and she's the one who kind of took care of me and, made sure I went to the right class and made sure I went to the bathroom. The weirdest thing is I always remember this girl, and weirdest thing is she ended up as my husband's classmate in high school. And so one day after I met my husband, we got married, he was talking about this this classmate, and he said, "Hey, my classmate remembers you from Kaumanu," and turned out to be that girl, Judy. And isn't that so weird? That is like Hawaii.
That's Hawaii kind things.
That's like how everybody's connected, and it's like small world. And how is that so possible?
Hey, I gotta ask because I heard you say Nu'uanu.
Yeah.
You ever been to Swiss Inn?
Where?
The Swiss Inn.
No.
Oh dang. It's a family's restaurant. It was a Swiss restaurant in New Valley.
Oh, New Valley.
Not Nu'uanu, but like
Oh no, I have.
over there.
Long time ago.
Long time ago.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only Swiss
Yeah.
restaurant, and so I was like, oh, I gotta take one shot. Maybe
Yeah,
you've been there.
yeah.
Rest in peace, Uncle Martin. How about you asked my brother, but
Mm-hmm.
where's your favorite Korean barbecue?
My favorite Korean restaurant is.
And all the Koreans are tuned in right now.
I know, and then I don't want it to be where I'm plugging this restaurant. No, but Korea Garden on what is that? Kalakawa. Their food is really good.
Yeah. Okay. I thought you were going to say yakiniku Seoul.
Yeah.
I don't know if you get the best, like, you can see them all the time, but how about Japanese then?
My favorite Japanese restaurant is I like it's Okinawan food, so utage.
Utage.
Yeah.
Okay. I got to check that out.
Yeah.
And then for your fried chicken.
My favorite fried chicken is KJ's in Kaneohe.
Oh, you see how
they
quick she
are-
answered that?
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I'm so hooked on.
Pono
no, but
popolo.
you know what? Okay,
Yeah.
if you go to Maui, there is this place called Minute Stop. Minute Stop is a gas station.
Yeah.
And so one time somebody bought me fried chicken and wedges. Wedges are like fried potato, right?
Yeah,
From
yeah.
Minute Stop. And then I was telling them, what? Is this some good fried chicken? And they go, oh, we bought it from Minute Stop. And I tell them, you bought me chicken from the gas station? What kind of oil are they using? But it was like the best fried chicken ever. So if
Ooh.
you're on Maui, Minute Stop fried chicken.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
you
a
may
good
not
one.
believe it, but
So what about pho? You a pho fan or what?
I love pho. I like the pho at what is that? Pho Saigon.
Yeah, yeah. Right across
Yeah.
Alawana, yeah?
Yeah, that is really good.
I heard that place going though. I don't know.
I heard it's closing too because
Yeah.
that whole area is closing. I know it just kind of makes me sad when you see restaurants close.
Like what's the longest restaurant? I don't know, maybe Ty will know. Like it's hard to be a long-standing restaurant in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Commercial real estate, whatever you point your finger at, fads. Are there any fads that you sort of miss from your Hawaii days?
Some fads that I miss. I don't know. I think we continue to have different fads. For instance, where like we love shave ice and we love the, leaking powder under shave ice. I don't think they do that as much anymore. But
Yeah, I think still
anything
get. Still get.
leaking,
Still
I
get.
think that's making a comeback.
Okay.
With all the gummy leaking things, I love leaking.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. No, my mouth is watering just thinking about that.
The South
I did have to ask this. I was like, okay, Kenji, you got to make sure you got to ask about this. The fact that you're here, so willing and open to be in this kind of platform. First of all, like, thank you again.
Oh, thank you.
It's very different from what you do as a public figure. And a lot of times, if someone just Google Sylvia Luke, we'll see things that are prepared.
Yeah.
We'll hear things that are prepared, maybe written by someone else, etc. Podcast is the platform where we can kind of blast right through that. And here we are an hour and a half-ish mark.
Wow, it's been on already.
The reason I bring that up is because, 2024 election. Podcasts, you could argue, swayed the vote.
Yeah.
I think it was something like Trump did 20 compared to Harris's 8.
Yeah.
And I don't even know the hours that relates to. But if you think of a podcast as like the source and how many different forms of content comes out of that 1 hour and a half session, you would think anybody is ridiculous or willfully ignorant to not do a podcast. So for you, I'm curious how you see podcasting as not only just a tool, But as a consumer, like, do you consume podcasts? How many hours a day? What are you watching? Your decision to be here today, like podcasting. How does Sylvia Luke look at podcasting?
Podcast is really changing how people see individuals. Even for you folks, for you to take this on, it was almost like you wanted to share a little bit about yourself. You're making yourself vulnerable because it is like unscripted, and you are diving into who the individual is, and it's not even me. It's like I'm getting a little bit of a sense of you. I'm getting sense of who Tai is. And I think that's really cool because podcast gives that opportunity to go a little bit deeper as opposed to like a TV segment. You hear a 20-second soundbite and that's all you get. And you form a judgment based on that 20-second soundbite. But this kind of format lets people in and show where some of the vulnerability is, and people want to see that. People want to see who you are as an individual, who you are, Kenji, as a person, and not all podcasts are successful.
Right.
But it's when the people who are putting it on has a true connection with the audience, and if they feel that, hey, this is something that I want to listen to, and you're genuine, and the fact that you can make me feel comfortable in this setting, and we can just
shoot,
let loose and just talk story.
I gotta ask this too, then, because I feel like this one thing I describe about podcasts is it's an intentional conversation, right? And just in general, most people don't have intentional conversations anymore. It's very snippet based, social media, short form based, which is a very narrow window to view anybody or idea. So when I imagine you're behind doors that most people can't get in. You're in rooms most people can't get in. Closed door meetings type stuff, right? How do those conversations differ from the people in that room having conversations outside of the room?
Yeah, we try to be very open. So, for instance, after the Maui wildfires, there were a group of individuals who were very frustrated about what is going on, and they brought a camera, and Senator Kurt Favela was helping them set up meeting, and I thought, hey, let's just sit down and have a conversation. So I invited them into my conference room, and I didn't care if they were filming me, and we just had an honest conversation about some of the anxiety and anger that they felt. And after the meeting, I think we all came to a place where we said, hey, I understand the struggles. I understand what, the horror of having gone through the wildfires. I understand the emotions and the anger and everything that is piled up. But it's really about us being open to having conversation, letting them in. It's not closed. We got to be able to sit down and have difficult conversation. And even, again, after the Maui wildfires, the superintendent of the Department of Education and I flew out to the Lahaina side and met with teachers. And we talked about, hey, there's talk about reopening schools. Are you guys in the right mental health state and frame of mind? And they were very angry, and they were saying, hey, we know a bunch of people who lost their homes. We feel them, and we carry their burden, and you're asking us to go back to the school. But we needed to have that conversation, and we needed to absorb their anger, absorb their frustration, and let them know that we continue to be there for them. And we shouldn't be afraid to have difficult conversation, or we shouldn't be afraid to open up just because we think we're going to get criticized.
How about you give our audience Sylvia's top 3 tips for communicating with someone who's pissed off?
The thing is, you put yourself in their shoes. you put yourself in their shoes, like no judgment, and you start with understanding. And you, no matter what the issue is, even if you completely disagree with their point of view, you have to think, okay, in order for you to have that place where you have an honest conversation, you put yourself in that shoes and be completely open-minded. And the second thing is, no matter what they say to you, you cannot take it personal, because you don't know if they had a bad day. You don't know their backstory. I was able to tell you some of my backstory, but you don't know. And every individual, they have a struggle. They have issues. They have problems. And you don't know in that moment what led them to be in this state. And so it's understanding, empathetic, understanding, and be open-minded.
Hey, forget running the state. You should run a restaurant.
Hey, for real.
I find myself saying a lot of the similar
Yeah.
things when it comes to staff and dealing with people.
You know, the most stressful TV show I have ever watched was The Beard. Not the beer.
Oh,
the bear.
The Bear.
The bear.
Yeah.
I can't get through it. I mean, I love the character, but oh my gosh, every episode is so stressful.
Hey, I mean,
There's
talk
a lot
about
of, there's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah.
high stress environment.
Every restaurateur I ask, I go, hey, I was watching The Bear. Is that how it is? And they all go, yes. And I'm thinking,
Oh, yeah.
why are you doing this to yourself?
Yeah, that's
if you're having this?"
PTSD.
Yeah.
Like when you watch it, I've heard it so much. Speaking of which, Oscars just happened.
Yeah.
Are you plugged in? You to the movie scene?
No, not at all. You know, the only time I catch up on movies is when I'm, having to go on a long trip. If I have to go to DC and I catch up, but even then, it's all the old movies.
What's the last movie you watched?
What was the last movie that I watched? I think the last movie was Wicked.
Oh, not even two. I know
Not
two
even
came
two,
out.
the first one.
The first one. And what? She go
good.
10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Oh, nah, that was good. My daughter's like that.
Yeah.
Damn. So if I had this question too, we can bring it out now is if Hawaii was a movie, what part of the movie are we in right now?
If Hawaii was a movie, what part of the
And what
movie?
genre is it?
Oh, I think it is I think it's rom-com.
Rom-com, okay.
Yeah. Because there's something so romantic about this place. And, this is like where we have love and, we appreciate each other, but it is very comical. A lot of times there is a lot of comedy. We can tease each other about our ethnic background, and only in the state of Hawaii we can do that. Yeah. Nowhere else. If we were to do that anywhere else, they would think you are so offensive. But here we can make fun of each other, and it's like,
Do you ever experience that when you're traveling? Like, hey, I'm Lieutenant Governor of Hawaii, and then you say something maybe a little bit racially charged that's normal in Hawaii, but you realize, oh wait, it's not like that over here.
Yeah, not just that. The thing that my pet peeve is when people make judgment about Hawaii and where we're located or what we do, because even among people who you think would be highly educated, they have no idea where Hawaii is, and they think we're still a territory. Some of them, or
these are elected officials who think.
Yeah, which is like shocking.
And what do you say? Like, do you nicely educate them, or
you gotta correct them, because we have to stand up for our rights and we have to stand up for who we are. And you
just light roast them next time.
Yeah.
Just
you gotta take it. Yeah, you gotta educate
represent.
them. Yeah.
How do you feel representing for Hawaii as a non-blood Hawaiian?
Oh, I feel it's a privilege, and because I am not Hawaiian, I feel even more of a responsibility to answer the call and make sure that we take care of our Native people top of mind. It has to be top of mind. So that's our responsibility.
No, thank you. I mean, Taisei and I face this question often too, right? It's like, yeah, we're from Hawaii, but the definition of Hawaii and Hawaiian is not why we're here today. really, there's just a couple more things that I wanted to bring up. The education piece. I myself learned a language as an adult, not a 9-year-old. And a lot of times I wish I started early. You learned, you started when you were 9 when you moved here. So you already jumped in. You're learning
Just
to swim
trial
after you
by
jump.
fire, I guess. You just got to jump in and figure out what people are saying.
What did that do for your communication?
Initially it was hard, but it's kids are resilient, and I don't know how fast we picked it up, but that was 5th grade. By 6th grade, I was able to understand.
2 years in.
Yeah.
So you was pretty functional in 2 years.
Yeah.
But that's like 9, 10, 11.
Yeah.
What about like a 28-year-old learning English right now in Hawaii?
For a 28-year-old, I think older you get, it's harder.
Yeah.
And if you're younger, it's easier. So as a 28-year-old trying to learn a new language, I think it's a little bit more difficult, but people do it.
What's the most weirdest thing about English language that you think?
I think Korean language is very, phonetic. So whatever, it's kind of like
Japanese,
like
a couple
hiragana,
of, yes.
Katakana, it's whatever you write.
Mm-hmm.
But English language, A has various pronunciation, and even, C has different pronunciation. I think that's been the hardest trouble.
So the reading part, like how to pronounce what
Yeah.
you see. Oh, okay. Yeah, there's so many exceptions.
I think because English is a mishmash of different languages, so you have a little bit of like British language, and like sometimes French, and it's a combination of all kinds of languages.
So what is your favorite pidgin?
My favorite pidgin is, I have to say, hey, how's it?
How's it? That's how's it? Can
Yeah.
shigo?
No can. Yeah.
If can.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I mean, yeah, that's still going, I guess. I still see stickers all the time. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I kind of want to, I guess there's two I kind of want to wrap up on. One would be on the education theme. As a parent, what, of 2 girls, what do you think the perfect day, as far as education goes, would look like for a 7-year-old girl in Hawaii today?
Wow, a perfect day for a 7-year-old. I think a perfect day for a 7-year-old is, you go to school and you learn something really, really, like, you get inspired. Because when you're 7, you're 3rd grade, right? 3rd grade, 4th grade. And, to inspire a girl that age is sometimes really hard. Because, they're at that age where they're 7 going to 18 already. So
Yeah.
just to have her go to school and be like, wow, this is something I never knew, and I want to do this, or I'm inspired by that. I think that is pretty cool.
Follow up to that is, what do you think parents should do for, like, let's say me, as a father, a girl dad of a 7-year-old daughter? What do you think I should be doing to instill that kind of inspiration in her?
Sometimes I think parents make a mistake to be too hovering, and you got to let them make their mistakes, and you got to trust them. And, if you trust them and you give a good upbringing, they'll make the right choices. But, you got to ask a lot of questions. You got to ask them, who are your friends, and to a point where it's irritating, and I'm sure you're become annoying, but that's your job. You have to know without being, it's a combination of without being too overbearing, but you have to know.
Yeah. The conversation I get in with a lot of parents is, what, you lick your kids or what?
Yeah.
I was like, hey, I think pain is the best teacher. Like, one time and done, they'll always learn. But do you have any, like, stance on that? What do you think?
We have not. We never did.
Yeah.
Because, I think there's always once you do it once, there's always this trigger to do it another time. So,
Can get out of hand.
yeah, there's other ways that you can discipline.
And then sort of to land the plane, which is actually maybe not doing it. We'll see how it goes. But I think right now it's top of mind for a lot of us. In Hawaii, in America, is war. War is a product of human nature, you could argue. Human lives, I think, across the board, we agree human lives should not be the cost of decision makers in rooms far away from the action. But in this time of war, what are you focused on?
You have to be focused on just providing support for individuals who are suffering from the consequences of war. So, I know there are different rallies, or, you have goodwill ambassadors who go and provide products, but it still comes down to whether certain wars were justified. There are certain wars that were not justified, even kind of the recent situation. It should have been the act of Congress. It should have been the right entity, the right government to engage war, because once you engage war, it impacts everybody. We are sitting in the middle of the Pacific, and we could become a target because of a decision made somewhere else in DC, and we have to be mindful of that, and we have to remind our congressional leaders that they have to speak up and not wage war unnecessarily and without cause, and we have to be the one to continue to carry that message.
What do you see Hawaii's role as if there was a war? How would that affect Hawaii? Specifically, how would that affect local people in Hawaii?
Yeah, no, if there's war, I think we become kind of a center focal point, because a lot of the military forces are here. And, that's the reason why the United States decided to make Hawaii a state, because they saw Hawaii as kind of a strategic location for national security. And that makes us vulnerable, and that makes us a target at the same time. Just like in the past, just like what happened in Pearl Harbor. And we don't want a situation where wars are engaged unnecessarily, because we have to protect our people, we have to protect our citizens, and we have to protect people we love and people who are living here, not because they are part of this national security effort, but because they want to make this their place, and they want to make this a place that they want to live and thrive. Just like you and Taisei, you guys made a decision and you commit to raising your family here, and that's what we should honor, and not be caught up in, what is going on internationally.
The Lahaina fires. I mean, we did touch on that, but is there's a part of that you wanted to go in?
Yeah. So on the morning of August 8th, the thing was the governor was out of state. In fact, not just the governor, but the attorney general was out of state. So that day, August 8th, I was also planning to leave out of state for an education conference. So it was the first time where the governor, potentially the lieutenant governor, the attorney general would be out. The law said that the succession of the role of the head of state falls. If the governor is not there, then the lieutenant governor becomes. If the governor, lieutenant governor is not there, then it's the attorney general. If the three of us are not there, then it's the budget director. So we were prompting and prepping the budget director to become the acting governor, and that usually does not happen that often. So because they were out of town. So I woke up on the morning of August 8th, and it was really, really early, and I woke up before 5. And the winds were something that I have never felt before, and it was really, really strong winds. And you just have this bad feeling that something was going to happen. And at that point in time, I was not aware of some of the fires that were happening, but you just felt like something wrong is going to happen. At least at a minimum, power outages because of the strong winds. We could have significant public works and debris on the road. So I immediately contacted my staff and said, I'm going to cancel my trip. I was supposed to fly out that afternoon. And lucky thing, because by early morning, we got reports that not just on Maui, at that point in time, it was both Kula and Lahaina, but not just on Maui, but the big concentration was on the fires on the Big Island. So we engaged the emergency management group and we were preparing all day for, how do you contain the fires on the Big Island? We were getting reports of the Lahaina and Kula fires all throughout the day. It was around kind of the late afternoon, evening side that we became aware of some of the things that were going on in Lahaina, how bad the situation was, but we weren't getting complete, accurate reports about the significance of and the damaging effects of the wildfires in Lahaina. Once we became aware that it has erupted into such a huge disaster, and the situation was so bad that we were contacting individuals in the Lahaina side. A lot of them, the phone service was down, so the only person that we could get in touch with was the hotel manager who had a satellite phone. And we were telling them, you need to get everybody out, get them out of the area. So we were communicating with not just our emergency management group in the state, but with Maui County. And then that night, we knew there were individuals who were stranded at the airport. There were about 2,000 people at the airport. There were shelters being open. The mayor and his family were taking care of the shelters, manning the shelters. So we were in communication with all the different authorities. Our Air National Guards couldn't fly over to provide assistance. And there were two reasons: because it was already dark and it would be hazardous for them to travel at nighttime to just douse areas with water. The second thing is because of the wind, they can fly, they can take off, but they couldn't land. So because of that, the Air National Guard support, our air support was limited. And we worked very quickly, tried to stand up the convention center here on Oahu to take care of some of the individuals, whether it was residents or visitors coming out of Maui. We worked with the airlines at like 4 a.m. that morning to call a meeting and say, you guys need to provide like air seats for individuals who are stranded, because even residents wanted to leave. They wanted to go to some family members in different islands.
But do you experience any kind of friction there when you're telling the private sector basically like, hey, we need your help?
No, they all stepped up. And in fact, Alaska Airlines at that point in time, they weren't running inter-island flights, but they got their air freights and then they decided to run inter-island flights. And we got everybody who wanted to leave out of Maui, because Maui resources were so scarce and it was so limited that whoever needed to leave, we had to get them out. So we just worked basically 40 hours straight without sleep, talking to hospitals, talking to the various emergency management teams, talking to the airlines, talking to individuals, and then just to get things set and then wait for the governor to come back to the state so that he can take charge from there. What became very evident this is Hawaii for you.
Yeah.
Hawaii people, when they see people hurting, they want to kukua. And the way that they kukua is they want to donate. So there was a huge distribution call where we were collecting all kinds of goods because, people lost everything overnight. And so there was a huge distribution effort at the state capitol. And people dropped off all kinds of things. And things were just piled up. And instead of giving cash, people would go and take whatever cash they had. They would go to Costco and buy everything off the shelf to bring stuff because that's Hawaii people. Hawaii people, they don't want to give cash no matter what the federal agency said. FEMA said, we don't want stuff, we don't want goods, we want cash. And then we kept telling them, no, Hawaii people, they're not going to give you cash, they're going to give you goods. They rather go shopping and buy everything off the shelf and then bring it as opposed to cash. So we work with Council on Native Hawaiian Advancement. We work with different agencies to set up like the streamlined distribution efforts, distribution center, staging from here, going to Maui, having different distribution outlets. And it was really an amazing thing to see just in a few days how so many people came together to support the people of Maui and support people who were in need.
So if it sounds like that 40-hour window where you are the acting governor, that's almost like a movie. You know what I mean? A 40-hour, however...
48 hours.
48 hours as governor, however you want to do it. Yeah. And it sounds like the main character was the Hawaii people or Hawaii spirit.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And who was the antagonist in? Who's the bad guy in that movie?
Well, I think it's nature.
Nature.
Right?
Circumstance.
We were battling nature. And incidentally, 1 year after that, in July of 2024, the governor was out of town and I was acting gov. And then we had the Haleakala fires. And this time, I told my staff, okay, we need to go to Maui because we're not going to let Lahaina happen again. So we flew to Maui, sent air supports. We were able to provide support. On our way back from Maui, we hear that Kauai had wildfire problems. So we land on Oahu, and I tell my staff, we got to fly back.
Straight back.
And in the meantime, we send the air support without even people asking for it. We said, okay, based on our experience in Lahaina, we cannot lose daylight. We got to send support when we can. So we sent helicopters. By the time we land, the firefighters and the emergency management group said it was such a huge relief when we saw the Air National Guard chopters coming and just dousing that community with water.
So what was your biggest takeaway then, personally?
It was, disasters, you have an opportunity to learn from every situation, and you have an opportunity to take away from that. And then if and when the next situation happens, you can learn from that experience and apply it. And that's what we have to be. We're a state where we're constantly facing disasters. So you have to take from that and then make it better so that the same situation doesn't happen again.
So since we're on this kind of topic of the past, we got to bring up something to do with these $5,000 checks. Can you sort of explain that and then go ahead, educate us? What was that all about?
Yeah. So when we started our lieutenant governor campaign, we had a lot of volunteers. So the different volunteers would do different things, whether they were doing sign waving, whether they were doing, communications, they were doing, putting up banners. There are different folks. And there was folks who were doing the bookkeeping, the accounting. And these are all unpaid volunteers. And they're all plugging in different areas. And so recently we became aware that there were 2 checks, $5,000 each, that got deposited into our account, but not recorded. But because these checks were returned back to the donor, the refund was recorded. And so that's why we were able to figure out it was an error, because the refund was recorded. And that's why people were able to see, hey, you recorded the refund. So that's why, how come the deposit wasn't recorded? That I'm embarrassed because, even if these were volunteers who did the work, it's still, I'm the candidate and I take responsibility. And so that's why, I stepped forward and said, hey, I own this responsibility and I have to take responsibility for whatever mistakes that these volunteers made. And I know there's a lot of criticism out there, but even that, I take that seriously and I take that as a lesson learned. And that's why we hired, as opposed to relying on volunteers, we hired a professional audit team so that those mistakes don't happen. And one mistake is too much because, you want to uphold the public trust and you want to do good and you want to ensure that those mistakes don't happen. But it's
mistakes happen.
Yeah, sometimes it's human error, and I see the criticisms out there, and I am not just embarrassed about it. I think that, hey, some of those criticisms are valid, and I have to do better. And just like when we talk about, hey, as opposed to being that person to say, hey, that's not me, I don't want to talk about it, and then be not truthful. If you made a mistake, you have the responsibility to come out, even knowing that there's going to be criticism, because that's who I am. And that's just our effort to becoming more transparent and trying to be accountable to myself as well.
Well, you heard it. I think one of the biggest things that people have in their mind, my brother kind of alluded to it earlier about his level of involvement with politics, is trust. At the end of the day, it's like, who are you going to trust? And social media helps you know people, but it's longer conversations like this that help people understand people. And so it's not just knowing about it, it's also understanding. And in that process, I think that is part of the trust building process, because we can hear you talk about what the haters might say, and we can hear you how you address it. And so I think that's how more people, elected officials, should behave, is that openness to talk about the mistake, to talk about the things that the haters are saying, because there's going to be haters. So thank you for being vulnerable and letting us kind of probe into these things a little bit. I would like to leave the last word up to you, though. What do you want people to get from this conversation with you at this moment in time? You can take us out with that, and where to find you.
Yeah, I really appreciate you, and I appreciate Ty for giving me this chance. It's just so nice to have a conversation, and I think this is what's missing sometimes in politics, and this is what's missing in just every day, where we can just sit down, as opposed to being on our phones and looking at social media platforms, just having a conversation, and that's missing in our lives now, having this true connection to get to know each other. So I really appreciate the fact that you allow me into your space and into your area, so that we can learn about each other.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. And let people know, where can they follow you if they want to get in contact or get involved.
Yeah, you can always call me at my office. You can look me up, Lieutenant Governor Sylvia Luke.
Thank you so much for watching this interview. If anything in this video made you feel something, Please share this video with someone you think would feel the same way. This channel is a product of two brothers born and raised in Hawaii, using our skills, our story, and our growing network to unleash our creativity. For us, being creative isn't optional. It's a duty. We've got some incredible interviews and creative projects coming up, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Thank you so much for your support. It means the world to us. Hope to see you in the next one.